Hello, this is Little Green Ghouls, and welcome back to Goosebumps Revisited, a series where I break down a classic Goosebumps book and any episode that goes along with it. I will also be told up some of our Goosebumps cliches and classic moments. This week, I'm excited to visit Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Before revisiting it this week, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder was one I had faint memories of, but not enough to actually know the details of the plot. This one ended up being pretty fun with a decent enough protagonist, and a really weird twist with multiple layers to it. Definitely worth checking out. When looking at the original cover, we're back to Jacobus. And it's a cover that always kind of struck me as a little funny. Maybe it's the Addams Family, but just the floating hands themselves are kind of silly. It's definitely eye-catching though, and it was for sure one I picked up based off the cover. It also manages to make an ugly color pairing of like brown and light blue work somehow. The 2005 version flips the image and fills in some of the empty space with extra blue slime. This looks fine to me, and it's an improvement on that weird red-brown border that was on the original. Sadly, there's not a late 2000s edition to look at this week, and on that note, there's also no merchandise to look at. This book has been paid dust, and it's really not that bad. Our front tag says, "Play it again, hands." And this is a play on "Play it again, Sam," which I guess is frequently misquoted from Casablanca. The back tag says, "Practice till you drop. Dead." I like this one just because it makes me think of one of my favorite movies, Drop Dead Gorgeous, even though they're years apart and have nothing to do with each other.
Every year, in the small town of Mount Rose, Minnesota, a special competition takes place.
You might say that a pageant is old-fashioned and demeaning to the girls. No, I think you boys are going to find something a little bit different here in Mount Rose.
But for two ambitious girls,
I believe this pageant teaches you what's really important in life.
I dream of getting out of Mount Rose. I mean, guys get out of Mount Rose all the time for hockey scholarships or prison.
Could be any tree in the woods. What kind of tree would you be?
Green?
it's about winning and whatever it takes. Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Suck it in, or so help me, I shoved my foot so far.
Before we get into the summary, let's read the blurb on the back. When Jerry finds a dusty old piano in the attic of his new house, his parents offer to pay for lessons. At first, taking piano seems like a cool idea, but there's something creepy about Jerry's piano teacher, Dr. Shriek. Something really creepy. Something Jerry can't quite put his finger on. Then Jerry hears stories, terrifying stories, about the students at Dr. Shriek's music school. Students who went in for a lesson and never came out. Since we didn't have any merchandise this week, this seems like a good excuse to throw in some clips from Stein's inspiration for Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, which was The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, which has children being enslaved to play the piano forever. The official description is, the imagination of a 9-year-old boy vividly comes to life in this fun-filled fantasy from Dr. Seuss.
It's coming closer! I'll blow you to smithereens!
Is it atomic?
Yes, sir! Very atomic!
Atomic?
Free us kids!
Yes! Yes, all 500 of you can go free! Everybody!
One, and a two, and a three, and a play!
Okay, now that we saw that, let's start the summary. The book begins with our introduction to Jerome, who goes by Jerry, and I don't know why, because Jerome is a much cooler name than Jerry. It turns out that Jerry is a little prankster though, because by the very first page, he pulls a "it's a prank bro" and creates a fake mouse out of dust bunnies to scare his parents. His father goes primal on the dust mouse with a broom and hilarity ensues. His parents are used to these shenanigans though, because he's the magic Goosebumps age of 12 and is always playing jokes on them. They ask him to help out since they're in the process of moving into a new house, but he can't because he's allergic to work. And I think I may also suffer from the same condition. Instead of helping, he is tasked with making sure Bonkers, the family cat, stays out of trouble. I'm just going to decide that this cat was named after the Disney show that I have very vague memories of.
Once upon a time in Toontown, there was a cat that had it all. Fortune and fame, top of the game, up until it hit the wall. Stop the clock, let's go bonkers. Yeah, totally nuts. Bonkers. No ifs, ands, or buts. Bonkers. Someone's stealing the show. Bonkers. 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 Wherever you are. Bonkers.
Bonkers sounds a lot like the cat I grew up with, who did not take kindly to the domestic lifestyle. In fact, I keep as far away from Bonkers as I can. No one ever explained to the stupid cat that she's supposed to be a pet. Instead, I think Bonkers believes she's a wild man-eating tiger, or maybe a vampire bat. Her favorite trick is to climb on top of the back of a chair or a high shelf, and then leap with her claws out into your shoulder. I can't tell you how many good t-shirts have been ripped to shreds by this trick of hers, or how much blood I've lost. The cat is nasty, just plain vicious. Old Jerome, though, he loses some points here for me because, although that cat is wild, it does not justify him opening the back door and hoping it gets lost. Jerry starts exploring his new house, and it sounds awesome, like a giant Victorian-style haunted house. He has big plans for the extra rooms, including a possible Nintendo room, cause it would be really neat. Jerry then spends some time reminiscing on how much he's gonna miss his best friend Sean, whose most defining character trait seems to be that he burps a lot, and loudly, which I guess is all you really need for friendship when you're 12. He comes across the attic, which he is immediately stoked about, because he thinks there could be an old comic book collection up there worth millions. Or, if you've been following the series, a mirror that leads to another dimension full of reflection people and makes you invisible. Unfortunately for him, it's basically empty, except for a mysterious old piano that's been left behind. Considering how hard it is to move a piano, I'm not shocked the previous owners were like, screw it, we're just leaving it here. That night, as he's struggling to fall asleep, Jerry hears classical music coming from the attic, and immediately rules out his parents due to their lack of musical talents, yet tells himself maybe it's Bonkers. Jerry, I think you may need to think that went through just a little bit more. Jerry is pretty brave because he wanders up into the attic all by himself to investigate. I watched too much America's Most Wanted as a kid, so I would have immediately thought it was like a home invader with a passion for Beethoven. When he gets up there, the attic is of course empty and the music stops. To add to the mystery further, he finds that the bench is still warm with butt heat. Just as Jerry is starting to relax, he hears a creak at the bottom of the stairs, which scares him right into a chapter cliffhanger, with him wondering who it could possibly be. It's his dad, obviously, and he's wondering what the hell Jerry's doing up in the attic at 3 a.m. His dad thinks this is just one of Jerry's stupid jokes, and he has no time to hear about mysterious piano music. However, on the march back to bed, the dad asks Jerry if he wants to get piano lessons, which Jerry is down for. He dreams big and imagines himself getting like 2 to 3 keyboards and a synthesizer to hook up to the computer, and maybe starting a band. Jerry was ahead of his time. As he drifts off, dreaming of musical fame, he hears the sad piano music start up again. FYI, Jerry has an awesome clock. It's like this one. I tried to buy one a few years ago, but my search kind of just fizzled out, so I should try again. Jerry heads downstairs and notices that the attic door is open, even though he is certain they closed it last night. In the kitchen, he has a great idea to hide in a box to scare his dad. It goes off successfully, and for the second time, Jerry marks that his dad almost dropped his teeth, which is an idiom I'm unfamiliar with until now. I thought maybe like his dentures were falling out. Also, I learned not to jump scare my own father growing up because one time I popped out of a dark hallway to get him and he punched me right in the sternum on instinct. My mom though, she's still fair game because she just grabs her heart like a cartoon character when she's startled. That night, Jerry hears sad piano music again, but he's too tired and cold to properly investigate and just goes to sleep. Later, they end up having the movers take the piano out of the attic and into the living room so Jerry can practice properly. I preferred the image of them locking their child in the attic to practice piano. Also, as somebody who grew up with a sister who played piano, you're really going to regret having that thing in the living room when you're trying to watch TV. We get a chapter cliffhanger where the mom starts screaming as the piano's being set down, and it turns out they're about to squish Bonkers. Jerry thinks too bad as the cat dodges the piano, and once again, I am reminded that Jerome cannot be trusted. Also, the jokes just never end with Jerry. I sat on the bench and slid back and forth on it. The bench was polished and smooth. It was really slippery. I planned a really funny comedy act where I sit down to play the piano for mom and dad, only that the bench is so slippery, I keep sliding right onto the floor. I practiced in sliding for a while. It was really fun. Falling is one of my hobbies. It isn't as easy as it looks. After a while, I got tired of falling. I just sat on the bench and stared at the keys. We finally get to the piano lessons portion of this book and are introduced to Dr. Shriek, who looks a lot like Santa Claus. Dr. Shriek says, "I know I have a funny name. I should probably change it, but you have to admit, it's a real attention getter." And the man is not wrong, because I'm like, with a name like this, he has to be a villain. He asks Jerry, "Don't you wonder who played this piano before you? Don't you wonder whose fingers touched these keys? I have the same thoughts when I'm forced to touch the pole on the subway." It turns out these home visits are just a short-term thing, because if Jerry shows promise he can go play piano at the piano school, it seems like a better deal to me to have the piano teacher come to you, but what do I know? Dr. Shriek examines Jerry's hands and says, "What beautiful hands, what excellent hands." Dr. Shriek leaves and Jerry notes that he has a hungry facial expression. You definitely don't want a strange old man looking at you hungrily. That night, Jerry hears piano music again, even though now it's downstairs. He decides to investigate, and right before he's able to get into the living room, we get a chapter cliffhanger with Jerry getting shoved from behind as a loud shriek rings out. It turns out it was just Bonkers, and I was hoping he had startled his mom or something and she just took him down. This wakes up his parents, and the mom immediately takes the side of the cat over Jerry and his dad and claims poor Bonkers was probably just thought Jerry was a burglar. The questioning then turns to why Jerry was out of bed in the first place, and he declares that the piano is haunted, which of course is not well received. Then Jerry briefly gets psychoanalyzed by his dad. "Ghosts, huh?" Dad asked, rubbing his chin thoughtfully. He stepped up to me and lowered his head, the way he does when he's about to unload something serious. "Listen, Jerry, I know this house might seem old and kind of scary, and I know how hard it is for you to leave your friends behind and move away." "Please, Dad," I interrupted, but he just kept going. "The house is just old, Jerry, old and a little run down. But that doesn't mean it's haunted. These ghosts of yours, don't you see? They're really just your fears coming out." Dad was a psychology major in college. "Skip the lecture, Dad," I told him. "I'm going to bed." The next day, we see Jerry at school, where he makes a friend named Kim Lee Chin, who turns out to actually be his neighbor. When Jerry suggests they play piano and violin together, he reveals he's getting lessons from Dr. Shriek. She gives a startled "oh" and just takes off without further explanation. We then cut to piano lessons time with Dr. Shriek, and he keeps saying his classic catchphrase, "excellent hands," as well as a new one we hear repeatedly, which is, "the fingers are alive." Dr. Shriek is some kind of wizard, though, because halfway through practice, Jerry is suddenly being forced to play as fast as possible, so fast that his hands are a blur. And as this is happening, Dr. Shriek keeps screaming, "Faster, faster!" Jerry then realizes he can't stop playing, but this is all too interesting to be true, and this was a surprise attack, it's only a dream. So actually none of that happened. However, this does give Jerry another opportunity to wake up and hear piano music from the living room, and once again he goes to investigate it. He succeeds this time, and once he reaches the piano, in a chapter cliffhanger he sees the ghost of a woman suddenly start to appear at the piano. I was expecting a dream within a dream situation a la Monster Blood, but nope, we commit to this ghost who had long, wavy hair hanging loose down to her shoulders. She wore a short-sleeved top and a long skirt. Her face, her skin, her hair, all gray. Everything was gray. She continued to play as if I weren't standing there. Her eyes were closed, her lips formed a sad smile. She's not a very friendly ghost. In fact, she's very territorial and keeps repeating this her house, her piano, and that Jerry needs to stay away from my piano. She then summoned some melting flesh like in Welcome to Dead House, and as I stared into the grayness, I saw her face begin to change. The eyes closed and her cheeks began to droop. Her gray skin began to fall apart, to melt away. It drooped like cookie batter, like soft clay. It fell onto her shoulders, then tumbled onto the floor. Her hair followed, falling off in thick clumps. A silent cry escaped my lips as her skull was revealed, a gray skull. Nothing remained of her face except for her eyes, her gray eyes which bulged out into the open sockets, staring at me through the darkness. "Stay away from my piano," she rasped. "I'm warning you, stay away." I backed up and turned away from the hideous rasping skull. I tried to scramble away, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I fell and I hit the floor on my knees. This whole scene reminds me of the Large Marge scare for some reason.
From the twisted, burning wreck, it looked like this.
His parents arrive at the scene due to all the screaming, and of course there's no ghosts around for them to see because ghosts are tricksy like that. His parents go full throttle and are ready to send him to Dr. Fry, who's a psychiatrist, all over one measly ghost sighting. He's forced back to bed, and when he enters his room, he sees a ghost rise from his bed in a chapter cliffhanger, but it ends up just being his covers in a clump on the floor. This boy is rattled, so it's understandable. I kind of figured it'd be Bonkers ready to continue their reign of terror. He goes to sleep and we cut to more piano lessons, and after some more comments on excellent hands, it's finally decided that Jerry is ready to go to Dr. Shriek's piano school across town. As Dr. Shriek leaves, the piano suddenly starts playing really loud jangly notes from the other room in a chapter cliffhanger. Again, I wanted it to be a Bonkers sighting, but we just jumped to Dr. Fry's psychiatry office instead. He lets Jerry know that he's not crazy, but he doesn't believe him and thinks that there's other fears behind seeing the ghosts, so basically what his dad already said earlier. As Jerry is leaving the office, he's grabbed from behind by an icy hand on his neck. which was so close to a shoulder scare. It's just his mom who's been out in the cold. We hop to Friday and there's time for more piano lessons, except this time he's across town. His mom finds the address and pitches Jerry out to go to lessons by himself, even though there's no other buildings around them and it looks like an abandoned house. Once inside, the building is kind of like a strange maze with tons of rooms, each housing one instructor and one student behind a piano. Jerry continues to wander around lost as the sounds of hundreds of pianos overwhelm him. This all feels very nightmare-like, so I was surprised when there was no It's Only a Dream fake-outs. In a chapter cliffhanger, Jerry suddenly spots a huge square monster barreling at him, with Dr. Shriek in pursuit. You're probably surprised to learn that this is not a monster, but instead a robotic floor sweeper created by Mr. Toggle, the janitor. Jerry joins Dr. Shriek in a lesson which goes smoothly as usual. It's revealed that once Jerry's hands are ready, he can work with one of the other instructors. As Jerry is exiting the building, he gets lost again and wonders why all the other students are still playing if the hour is up. He finds some double doors and thinks they may lead to an exit. When he goes to push through them, suddenly he is shoulder scared in a chapter cliffhanger by a gruff voice telling him, "No, you don't." This ends up being a mechanical genius, Mr. Toggle, who steers Jerry towards the actual exit. Mr. Toggle promises to show Jerry some of the other inventions during his next lesson, and also stops to comment on Jerry's excellent hands. All these grown men fawning over this child's hands continues to be concerning. At home, Jerry is forced to show off what he learned to his parents, but to their dismay, when he goes to play, all they can hear is awful banging noises that Jerry insists isn't him. That goddamn ghost is setting him up. We brush past this scene and head back to more piano lessons, where Mr. Toggle shows off his workshop to Jerry. It's full of various robots, security cameras, and modified instruments, like a saxophone with its own air supply. I actually played saxophone, and this wouldn't work. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert, since I went a solid 2 years not realizing you were supposed to tap the reed with your tongue versus just honking air into it. I just knew that in 5th grade, that once in high school the band got to go to Disney World, and that was my sole motivation for sticking it out. Well, that and Lisa Simpson played saxophone, so that's why I picked it. Mr. Toggle shows off a keyboard controlled by eye movement. This man is a crafty little fellow. It's almost like he's a mad scientist or something, which makes me think back to a comment he made about Dr. Shriek and how he programmed him to compliment him. Suspicious. As Jerry leaves the workshop, he heads towards his lesson. He hears a faint voice calling for help. Dr. Toggle just assures him it's damaged equipment, and we cut away from piano lessons for some snow shoveling. I don't think I've mentioned this yet, but this book takes place during the winter, and it's been a nice change of pace and scenery since our usual Goosebumps horrors are during the summer. Or maybe just it's because it's October right now, and I'm just in the mood for that first snow, and this book is hitting right. We get to see Kim Lee Chin again since she abruptly left the scene like 15 chapters ago, because she's outside unloading groceries with her mom. She comes over for some hot cocoa and reveals that there's a lot of scary rumors about Dr. Shriek's school, like that there are monsters in the basement. Jerry assures her that they're just floor sweepers and that Mr. Toggle is a mechanical genius. He also lets her know that the first time he saw one of the floor sweepers, he practically dropped his teeth. This is the 3rd time this boy has said that. Is he only allowed one idiom for surprised? Is the twist going to involve his teeth somehow? Stein, I demand answers. Kim Lee Chin also lets him know that there are rumors of kids going in for lessons and then vanishing. Why would the local authorities allow this place to exist would be my immediate question. Jerry tries to confide in Kim that the piano is haunted, but she's not buying it. As she's leaving, the piano starts playing from the other room all by itself, but it's just Bonkers making their triumphant return and strutting on the keys. That night, he hears the piano playing again and decides to go visit his personal ghost friend. This time, the ghost lady drops some additional information and lets him know that the stories are true. This confuses Jerry because he can't quite make the connection to the rumors about Dr. Shriek for some reason. He finally gets it though when he looks at the ghost's arms and realizes they're just stumps where her hands are supposed to be in a chapter cliffhanger. He hollers loud enough to wake his parents, and they try to tell him it was just a nightmare. He blurts out that he wants to be done with piano, and they tell him he can quit. He just has to go for one last lesson to tell Dr. Shriek himself. And I'm like, well, I'm sure this will end well. On the last day of lessons, as he's heading down to Dr. Shriek, he realizes he's never actually seen another student in the room, just the instructor next to the piano. Once in the room, he lets Dr. Shriek know that it's his last day of lessons, and this is not well received. He immediately snarls, "Not with those hands, I need those beautiful hands." Jerry takes off out of the room, but despite his multiple lessons at this place, he immediately gets lost running through the halls. He starts screaming for Mr. Toggle, with Dr. Shriek in hot pursuit. He makes it to the forbidden double doors I mentioned earlier and bursts inside. This is where shit gets wild. Inside, he sees rows and rows of pianos, all with identical instructors sitting by them. He then notices music is being played, but there are no students. Except, wait, oh yes there are. The issue is that it's just their hands floating there playing piano. So Jerry has stumbled across a room full of disembodied hands. Dr. Shriek goes to tackle Jerry, but he's able to dodge this at first. However, Jerry pulls a horror movie fall as he's struggling to get away. This gives Dr. Shriek enough time to catch him. Just then, Mr. Toggle appears and switches Dr. Shriek off, because this man is actually a robot. This relieves Jerry at first, but soon he learns that Dr. Toggle built all of this and he needs Jerry's hands to continue his work, and that he's already has a piano picked out for him. You may be wondering why Mr. Toggle needs Jerry's hands if he's such a gifted mechanical genius. Once so gifted, he made a robot realistic enough to go out into the real world and give piano lessons. Well, human hands are too hard to build, too complicated, too many parts. So obviously the solution is to harvest hands from children in order to make beautiful music. I guess every villain needs to have a motivation, and Mr. Toggle says that he wants to make music, so good for him. To add to the chaos further, suddenly his ghost friend from home appears, and she summons the ghosts of all the men, women, and children who have been killed for their hands. I'm kinda glad that the can be murder part of the title came to fruition, because we've certainly had a lot of the piano lessons part. The ghosts and their disembodied hands swarm Mr. Toggle and press him into the floor. At first I thought they were gonna smother him to death, but instead they end up lifting him up and carrying him off into the woods, never to be heard from again. Kind of like what happened to Umbridge in Order of the Phoenix, minus the possible centaur stuff. This book wraps up in a couple paragraphs after this. They sell the piano, the ghost never appears again, and Jerry considers joining the baseball team since everyone keeps saying he has such great hands. And that's it. That's how this ends. All I remembered about this episode before starting it was an image of disembodied hands playing away at the piano, and really, that memory could have been transposed from the cover. My favorite notable actor from this episode is Erica Luttrell, who played Kim in the episode, mostly because she's never one of our Goosebumps Magic School Bus crossover kids, because she voiced Keisha. She's since then gone on to do a bunch of other stuff, including things like Westworld, so that's fun. It looks like we opted to have Jerry be a little weirdo versus a prankster in the episode.
The brilliant scientist was abducted by aliens. He made subtle adjustments to his telepathic helmet. But no matter how hard he thought, he got no answer.
Why is this song always so creepy? Was there ever a time that it wasn't? I appreciate that we jump right into the ghost 2 minutes into the episode. I want their sunroom/kitchen.
He's living in a fantasy land.
He has an active imagination.
You know, most...
Yeah, let's rock out.
A piano teacher used to live there. It must have been hers. Hey, do you play? Maybe we can jam together.
Jam? Sure.
I think the ghost has Taylor Swift's cardigan.
Stay away. Dad? Stay away!
The mom is really selling this place.
Shriek School. Well, this is it. It's more like a prison than a music school.
Jerry continues to live in his own world.
They enter the mad scientist's lair, unaware of the dark fate that lurked behind
Jerry, try to stay focused. Come on.
I can see the robot in this man.
Ah, Mr. Hawkins. I'm Dr. Shriek.
Please unhand the child, sir.
Have you ever played an instrument before, Mr. Hawkins?
What did I just say?
But you have marvelous hands. Simply marvelous.
He's lucky this isn't a chopping mall robot.
The world-famous explorer, starting to wish he's home in bed.
Is this possession? She's a bit more direct in her warning than in the book.
Will suffer. Stay away from the street. School is evil.
For the third time, I am asking you to unhand the child.
Your hands are precious. Precious. You must take good care of them.
I keep thinking he's gonna bite those fingers.
I must have your beautiful hands.
Let go!
Your beautiful hands.
Let go!
Uh-oh, he short-circuited.
Ah!
Beautiful act! Beautiful act! Beautiful act!
Okay, so this scene does exist. This poor kid is gonna have a complex about his hands after all of this.
You've gone too far, I warned you. This time you've gone too far.
I can't, Andrew, but it was never good enough for you.
Practice makes perfect, Andrew Toggle. It's time.
Overall, I thought Piano Lessons Can Be Murder was a pretty fun book. Having both a ghost and a mad scientist is quite a bit for a twist, but I thought it worked out well enough. I enjoyed how gross the ghost scene was with the flesh melting off her face, and I liked the idea of a mad scientist too lazy to build hands, so he just decides to harvest them instead. Jerry was a decent protagonist, and I never felt bored reading this one, so I'll give it 4 out of 5 bonkers. Not too bad for a book with no reprint or merchandise. Okay, now let's jump into our Goosebumps totals. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder didn't have any asshole victims or anything to add to the vomit count, but it did have a shoulder scare. The shoulder scare was of course Mr. Toggle startling Jerry when he's about to enter the piano auditorium. This brings our Goosebumps series total to 13. It's only a dream. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder had only one It's Only a Dream sequence, but it actually got me because I thought maybe Dr. Shriek was possessing Jerry into playing faster or something. This brings our Goosebumps series total to 5. In It's a Prank Bro, Jerry was the perpetrator of 2 pranks. These included creating a fake mouse out of dust bunnies to scare his parents, and popping out of a box in the kitchen to startle his dad. This brings our series total to 21 pranks. Getting Jiggy with the 90s had 3 notable 90s moments. These included a CD player for the living room, Nintendo, and Bonkers because I said so. This brings our series total to 71 Jiggy 90s moments. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder had a lot of chapter cliffhangers, with 14. I thought these were pretty solid across the board. This raises our Goosebumps total to 156. The clunky cliffhanger award for this book is going to go to chapters 11 to 12, where Jerry thinks his covers on the floor are somehow a ghost floating off the bed. Shocker ending. Our big twist to this story was of course Dr. Shriek being a robot created by Mr. Toggle, who also happened to be a mad scientist who harvests hands to make beautiful music. However, this was more like a climax for the book, not a last page twist. So this leaves our Goosebumps series total at 9. Jerry does remark that he has great hands for baseball on the last page, but I took it more as a self-aware joke. Not that the baseball team is also full of secret robot people out to harvest hands. Well, that's it for Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. I thought this was a pretty enjoyable book with some funny twists that really didn't bother me. I've always enjoyed a mad scientist though, so maybe that's why I like this one so much. I'm really excited for Werewolf of Fever Swamp because werewolves are my favorite horror movie monster, and I'm hoping we'll see actual werewolves running around. Be sure to let me know what you thought of Piano Lessons Can Be Murder in the comments. What did you think of the twists mixed with ghosts and mad scientists? Did you drop your teeth? Anyways, as always, thanks again for watching, and make sure you subscribe for
The pride. The love.